Sixth grade lesson 12.2 is describe data collection. So you would collect data, and sometimes the way you collect it is by observing or watching or looking at the different things that you have collected. And you might observe different attributes about them. And an attribute is a property or characteristic of the item that you're measuring. So maybe you're observing its weight by weighing it, or maybe you're observing the variety of colors. Maybe you're observing the size of it. So an attribute would be something about it that you're comparing to the others in the data set. So let's look at this unlock the problem and how they walk us through the understanding of this. One way to describe a set of data is by stating the number of observations or measurements that were made. Another way is by listing the attributes that were measured. An attribute is a property or characteristic of the item being measured, such as its color or its length or its size or its weight. Jeffrey's hobby is collecting rocks and minerals. The chart gives data on garnets he found during a recent mineral hunting trip. Identify the attribute that he measures on his data set, the unit of measure he used, the likely means by which measurements were made, and the number of observations. So we're describing his data set for where he gained his data. So he went and collected all of those, and we're describing the data set, what data he pulled out of his collection. So what property or characteristic of the garnets did Jeffrey measure? If you look at his table of his recordings, he doesn't have anything about color, although the colors are quite pretty. He has garnet 1, 7.2 grams. Garnet 2, mass, 3.5 grams. So he wanted to measure the weight. So the attribute Jeffrey measured was the weight, or the mass, I should say, of the garnets. The unit of measures, the unit used to measure the mass of the garnets was grams. To measure mass in grams, Jeffrey probably used a scale of some sort, right? Weight, a little scale that measures in grams. And the number of observations Jeffrey made was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He observed 12 different garnets. Would Jeffrey likely have gotten the same data set if he had measured a different group of garnets? Well, no, probably not. He would have had different mass. Not every garnet is going to be the same mass. They'll vary in size, depends on the size of the item that he picked up. So no, it'll be a different set. It'll be different. It wouldn't be exactly the same. Might even be different garnets altogether. What other attributes of the garnets could Jeffrey have measured? He could have measured their color. He could have measured their size. I don't know. He could have observed their shapes and their differences in shapes to one another. So there's a lot of different things he could have done. So here's an in-class activity we could have done if we were in class and not isolated at homes. In this activity, you will work with other students to collect data on the length of the students' index fingers in your group, and you will present the data in a chart. So let's pretend we walked around the room, we measured the index finger of each of our classmates, and we recorded it on a table, on a graph or table. Describe the attribute you will measure. Well, we are measuring the length of the index finger. Okay, then describe how you will make your measurements. Well, we're going to go around and use a ruler, right? Ruler to measure. I guess in inches or centimeters. Let's go centimeters. I don't know. Let's say we're going to measure everybody's index finger in centimeter length from a ruler. Describe the data you will record in your chart. Well, I will put the student's name on one side of the table, and then on the other side, I will put the length of index finger in centimeters. On the other side of the table, so Sam, 8 centimeter index finger, Lisa, 7 centimeter index finger, and on and on and on in a table. In the space at the right, make a chart of your data. There it is. That's the chart at the right. That's the data we're going to make since we can't go around measuring each other's index fingers. How many observations did you make? How many kids are in your class? Since it's an imaginary scenario, we couldn't go measure each other's index finger. You put down an answer to that. You're pretend measuring. So let's say 35 students. That would be a big table. Maybe 10 would be better. Anyways, this lesson is just all about that. What is the attribute that you are observing? In this case, we were looking at the length of the index finger. So what is the attribute? Describe how you would make your measurement, what you'll record. So this whole lesson is just about that, is finding or describing the data collection, what data you're collecting, how you're collecting it, and things like that.